than the F-18 Hornet. Small and agile, the F-18 is good for both ground attacks and air combat. The heavier F-14 carries a larger weapons load and more fuel than the F-18. The primary jet of the U.S. Air Force is the single-engine F-16 Fighting Falcon. It provides excellent visibility, the fastest, tightest turn rate of anything in the air, and pilot comfort. The lightweight plane fits around the pilot like a glove. He doesn't so much fly this jet as wear it.
The F-16 is the Porsche of airplanes. I mean, it handles great, it goes fast, it feels good. Your seats recline to help you with the G-forces. Everything's right out here like a big video game, and it's a sweet ride.
While the Russians admire American planes, they consider them almost too delicate for the rigors of war.
Our military aircraft was designed for battle. It's built for war, not to just stand there and look pretty. Here, behind me, you have an example of this. You can't break this plane. You could land it on its fuselage, and they'd come out, pick it up, lower the landing gear, clear the engine, and you could take off again.
We go at it with a scalpel, trying to very, very carefully hone the capability, build the weapon. They go at it with a sledgehammer.
Two design bureaus, originally under strict control of the Soviet government, are responsible for the look and performance of Russia's top fighter jets. The Mikoyan Bureau created the MiG-29, a small, potent fighter for close-in air duels, and the MiG-31, a long-range interceptor for patrolling Russia's vast borders. From the Sukhoi Bureau came the Su-25, a flying tank for ground support missions. Sukhoi also developed the Su-27 and the Su-35, both fighter bombers. The Russians also claim they have the best ejection seat in the world, seen here in test footage. The seat propels the pilot out and away from the fuselage with a force of 20 Gs, while restraining his arms and legs.
You know, it's bad manners here to compare what's mine to what's yours. But when I flew in the F-18, it took half an hour to buckle me into the seat. It's just not practical. In the final analysis, this can really reduce the battle readiness of America's Air Force. Here we just jump in and buckle up. In your planes, one person can't do it himself. You've got hands and legs going everywhere.
The Paris Air Show of 1989, the world saw a dramatic demonstration of the Russian ejection seat, when test pilot Anatoly Kovachur bailed out of his crippled MiG-29 at less than 300 feet. Kovachur walked away from the accident. Russian jets also have fire-resistant fuel tanks, which kept this MiG-29 crash on takeoff from exploding into a deadly inferno. Russian test pilots were among the first to experience extreme G-force in the days before its effects on the human body were understood. Yet even today, Russian fighters wear only a partial G-suit, more like a girdle that fills with air to force blood back to the body's major organs and prevent blackout.
You know, we always try to wear the maximum amount of G protection we can get. Now we're even talking about full G-suits that go from your neck all the way down. In Russia, there's also maybe a bit more of a, I'd say, a macho attitude toward flying. They sometimes do not wear G-suits in their airplanes. Sometimes we're an abbreviated G-suit. So in the West, we'd probably be a bit shocked at that.
In the breakneck race for faster, deadlier fighters, Soviet Russia and the U.S. built machines that reached speeds in excess of Mach 2, twice the speed of sound. Maneuvers in the Su-27 or F-16 can put up to 9 times the force of gravity on the pilot. But it is how the two countries employ this technology that sets them apart. Russia's Air Force believes in preparing for the close, dirty air duel, where pilot skill and maneuverable aircraft are the keys to victory.
Part of the difference in mentality between the Russians and the West as well has been the belief that the dogfighting mission has never left. Over the years, we as Americans have always tried to ditch this mission. After World War I, we said the dogfight was over. After World War II, the dogfight was over. Then no, then after Korea, no, now it's over. The Russians have always believed in the dogfight. They've never left it. All of their airplanes reflect it.
In the West, Russian pilots were often seen as unimaginative flyers, slaves to commands from the ground. In reality, they are quite innovative and daring. They perfected this maneuver, which they say can only be done in their Su-27 class of jets. Known as the Cobra, it resembles that deadly snake coiled for attack.
In a duel situation, if two aircraft are closely matched, it's hard to win the duel. The Cobra lets a pilot who's being pursued rise above and slide behind his adversary, thus becoming the pursuer. The designers and pilots hope that with the aid of this Cobra maneuver, this very quick short-term jump to a high angle of attack, we hope to be able to fire a rocket or get into range to use a rocket.
It's a last-ditch maneuver. It's something a pilot would do to shake somebody off of his tail. It's very effective for that. But again, it's something we normally don't do in the West.
The Cobra recalls an earlier time in Russian history when another, even more heart-stopping maneuver was adopted, the Taran, or deliberately ramming an enemy's airplane. Taran was first employed in World War I by Peter Nesterov, who ran his propeller into the tail of an Austrian bomber.
He did this because he ran out of ammunition. And Nesterov, the practitioner, the pioneer of this technique, died, but his example lived on.
In World War II, which Russian calls the Great Patriotic War, the Taran reappeared.
One has run out of ammunition. He can't simply leave the battlefield, return home and say, "You guys keep on fighting, I'm going home." After all, that would be desertion. This pilot must continue with the battle. They had to hate their enemy a lot to be capable of doing this, and we call the pilots who were capable of doing this strong in spirit. It was only the strong in spirit who could carry out attacks like this, and we know that the fascist pilots did not do this type of attack. They were too afraid.
For the Soviets at the beginning of the war, it was a pretty good calculation to take an I-16 fighter, a pre-war obsolete fighter, and ram it into a high-performance modern German bomber. I mean, the trade-off was very compelling. And awaiting you would be the highest award the Soviets gave, Hero of the Soviet Union.
The first Taran hero who survived to tell about it was Viktor Talaryikin. He later perished in his second Taran attempt. Russia claims over 600 such kills during the war. But Taran was not a suicide mission like the Japanese kamikaze.
The Russian is more studied,